Picture this. You're hacking your way through the incredibly dense, unforgiving jungles of Central America, and suddenly you stumble upon the remnants of something truly spectacular, the Maya. We're talking about soaring pyramids, monumental cities, and a civilization with an almost mythical mastery of astronomy and mathematics. These people literally mapped the stars and built absolute architectural wonders. It's a vibrant, incredibly complex world hidden right beneath the jungle canopy, just waiting for us to uncover it.
But here's the multi-million-dollar question. How does an advanced civilization of master astronomers and monumental builders just vanish? Because that's exactly what happened. Sometime in the 9th century, this booming, thriving empire experienced a sudden and catastrophic collapse. Today, I want you to step into the shoes of the explorers who've spent decades trying to untangle these secrets. We're going to decode the exact clues they left behind in the stone.
Okay, let's dive into this. To solve this puzzle, we need a roadmap. We'll start with the early Maya civilization, then explore their engineering and architecture, take a look at their rituals and beliefs, discuss the shift to northern society and USMA, and finally, try to make sense of the Great Maya Collapse.
Section 1. The early Maya civilization, the pre-classic rise. To really grasp how they fell, we absolutely have to understand how they rose.
If we look at the timeline of the Maya civilization, we're dealing with a massive chronological scope. It kicks off way back in the pre-classic era, which was really their foundational period. From there, they build upward and outward into this breathtaking golden age filled with monumental cities. But then, they hit a sudden, absolute wall between 800 and 900 AD. This is the era we now call the Great Collapse.
Now, back in those earliest days of the pre-classic era, they weren't exactly the towering empire we usually picture. But, these initial steps were vital. They were just learning to master this incredibly dense, challenging jungle environment. They were laying the literal and cultural groundwork for an empire that would eventually completely dominate the landscape.
Let's move on and see how this builds in Section 2, Engineering and Architecture, Building a Monumental Empire.
Now, what's really interesting here is that the Maya didn't just stack rocks. They practically defied gravity. The vault stone was this brilliant, total game changer of an architectural innovation. It completely revolutionized what they could build. By allowing them to distribute immense weight, they could carve out these stable, soaring interior spaces and construct massive pyramids reaching toward the sky. Without this one ingenious piece of engineering, there's just no way their cities could have achieved such awe-inspiring heights. But they didn't just build up, they also engineered deep beneath the earth. Enter the Chiltun. This was an underground storage chamber, basically a literal lifeline, perfectly designed to preserve vital resources against that notoriously unforgiving jungle environment. I mean, managing resources back then was strictly a matter of life and death, right? So this practical engineering marvel ensured their day-to-day survival by locking their stores away from the elements. Section 3. Rituals and Beliefs, the Spiritual Life of the Maya. Let's transition from their physical engineering to the profound beliefs that really drove their society. For the Maya, a pyramid wasn't just, impressive architecture. It was literally a stairway to heaven. These monumental structures were intentionally designed to bridge our earthly realm and the divine. The idea was simple but powerful. The higher you ascended, the closer you were to the gods. So all that incredible physical engineering we just talked about, it served a very intense religious purpose. Acting as a grand stage for rituals that they honestly believed kept the entire universe functioning. And this intense dedication definitely extended to death itself through a pretty eerie but completely fascinating practice called secondary burial. For them, an initial burial wasn't a final resting place. It was just step one. Later on, the remains were unearthed and meticulously defleshed. Then, finally, the bones were reburied in a highly sacred ritualistic context. It shows us that death wasn't the end of a person's physical significance. It was just a transition, maintaining a profound, continuous relationship with their ancestors. Another massive pillar of their spiritual life was the cult of Quetzalcoatl. This pervasive worship of the legendary feathered serpent deity wasn't just some distant mythology. It was a daily reality for these people. The feathered serpent held immense influence, basically tying their everyday earthly actions directly to the powerful cosmic forces they revered so deeply. Section 4. Northern Society and USMA, Evolution and Cultural Shift. Things are about to change. And this brilliantly illustrates that Maya culture wasn't just static. While the early pre-classic Maya had foundational roots that were heavily focused in the south, we eventually see this massive evolution. Power dynamics and cultural centers began shifting decisively northward. This completely redrew the map of their world and brought in a huge wave of entirely new developments and architectural styles.
A prime example of this northern shift is Uzma. This prominent settlement perfectly showcases the distinct architectural and cultural identity that the Maya developed during this later evolutionary phase. It stands as a powerful testament to just how adaptable and dynamic the Maya civilization truly was, right up until the very end.
Which brings us to Section 5, the Great Maya Collapse, the 9th century enigma. We're back to that looming mystery we started with. So the crucial point here is this very specific window, 800 to 900 AD. Look, in the grand scope of human history, a single century is basically the blink of an eye. Yet within this devastatingly short time frame, one of the most sophisticated civilizations on planet Earth essentially just unraveled. The archaeological record reveals a spectacularly rapid fall. We see the sudden, massive abandonment of their grand, monumental cities. Think about it. Those soaring pyramids with their expertly engineered vault stones. The vital underground shultuns, they were simply left behind, swallowed up by the jungle almost overnight. It marks the abrupt, devastating end of their golden age, and it's an unbelievable contrast between their highly organized glory and their sheer, sudden disappearance.
So what does this all mean for us? What can the sudden, mysterious fall of such a master civilization teach us about the resilience and, let's face it, the fragility of our own modern world? If a society of master astronomers, brilliant engineers, and incredibly complex cultural systems can be reclaimed by the forest in just a century, what lessons does their lost world hold for us today? Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. I really hope it sparked your curiosity to keep digging into the incredible